about translation of novels. As you can see, we have 4 parts here. I'll first introduce some information from theoretical level. As one of the translation types, literary translation occupying an important position in the history of this field at home and abroad, plays a vital role in the spirit of cultures of various countries. Like literature creation, literary translation is a kind of aesthetic creation, but it's a recreation on the basis of the original work. As an important branch of literature, fiction has distinct stylistic characteristics. Taking Wells' writer Joe's short story, The Invisible, as an example, here we explore and summarize the linguistic and stylistic features of the novel text in practice, as well as key issues in the translation. Before conducting translation research, we must first analyze this type. Fiction is an important branch of literature, and its language correspondingly bears the characteristics of literary language. It is a kind of art language, or a kind of art symbol, but fundamentally it comes from the daily life language, being developed on the basis of daily language. We can all see that everyday language has been adopted in literature works. The same word can be used in everyday speech as well as in literary texts. However, everyday language is characterized by its simplicity and clarity. Literature language, on the other hand, focuses on the aesthetic function of art and highlights the artistry. Another one lies in its stylistic features. Novel is a kind of literature genre that reflects the social life with the portrayal of characters at the central. It uses a method of artistic generalization to shape the characters. There are many ways to depict characters in novels, including action description, language description, psychological description, and side description through other characters' reactions and attitudes. It not only outlines the profile of the character, but also shows the development and change of this person in the development of plot. As a kind of literature translation, novel translation basically covers all issues involved in this field, including language, history, culture, folklore, and some others. Next, I'll take The Invisible as an example to explore and summarize features of the novel text and key issues in translation. It is based on a true story of 19th century Welsh folk. Martha, a woman from a local county, claims to be a good friend of the invisible living in the invisible mansion, so that the we who are tangible people and the invisible who are mysterious and unpredictable began a dual game of reality and psychology. The Invisible is a novel with poetic language, with the wings of imagination. The author leads us to glide through every inch of the language. We sometimes linger in the simple beauty of the Welsh countryside. Sometimes we are amused by one funny story and after another. Sometimes we travel through the emotional undercurrents of the drama. This novel is much richer than themes with complex and elaborate text, rich in referential meaning and metaphors. And combined with the background of that time and psychology of the author's creation, this work has characteristics of realistic literature. Realism focuses on reflecting real life truthfully and has strong objectivity. It is a kind of pure literature. And in order to express objectively, we sometimes need to use artistic techniques. This writing feature is reflected in several places in the selected text. For example, they receive numerous invisible guests, Martha tells us, who must travel here from other invisible mansions in other parts of the country. And now let's take a look at stylistic features of fiction. Novels, whether short novels or long ones, have one thing in common. It's a genre of narrative literature, which focuses on shaping characters and reflects social life by displaying short plots, using various narrative methods, and describing specific environments. The 3 elements of the novel are characters, plot, and environment. And narrative process is an important feature that distinguishes fiction from drama. In this work, narrative runs through the whole text. And here we have an example about the portrayal of Martha. In addition, the feature of narrative mode has a special display in this novel. Here, the image shaping of film expression is used. It is often used in film narratives, usually when there is a need to create suspense and highlight a creator's particular situation. We can look at this example. Having some knowledge of basic features of this genre, now we can take a look at some corresponding translation issues. First, we need to pay attention to artistry of language. Different literary works, composed of many complicated factors, have different artistic characteristics. They are closely related to the writer's personality, worldview, values, and aesthetic perception, reflecting of the writer's creative soul. The difficulty of literary translation lies in conveying the writer's personality, artistic style, and aesthetic charm. And literary translation must preserve the artistic charm of the original work. Whether it is from sentence structure, grammar, vocabulary choice, etc., translators need to pay special attention. But based on this novel, here we focus on the translation of rhetorical devices. And this novel shows the author not only uses concise words, but also a variety of rhetorical devices, such as emphasis, metaphor, exaggeration, puns, etc. A reasonable treatment of these devices is also an important factor to reflect the beauty of the original work. Therefore, it's necessary to deal with them reasonably and reflect the style of the original work. Next one we need to focus on is translatability and untranslatability. Although there are some common knowledge among different cultures and languages, there is no doubt that there are inevitably differences between different languages and cultures. Therefore, in the process of literary translation, the untranslatability of culture is absolute. In the process of literary translation, cultural barriers are a difficult problem that all translators need to overcome, such as cultural connotations, different values, puns, allusions, and idioms. From only one aspect, like material culture, there are many examples of untranslatability that are not clearly listed. Put aside cultural differences and cognitive gaps in different regions. In fact, even within the same material and cultural, there are things that are not familiar or understood by everyone in that region. For example, there are at least 50 kinds of bread in French, each with its own name, unique method of making, different raw materials, color, shape, and hardness. And even for the native French, there are a large number of people who cannot distinguish them clearly, or even call the exact names of them. Translating these brand names into Chinese is even more difficult. And we may wish to look at some different brand names. And in the end, let's move on to integrity. The French hermeneutic translation theory puts forward that words in a text change slightly in the meaning due to different circumstances, while the translation object is the whole text. Therefore, translation does not refer to the one-to-one corresponding translation of the words and sentences. Instead, the effect achieved by the translation should be holistic, emphasizing the overall effect of the text on the reader. In China's translation theory, Yanfu's belief in faithfulness, expressiveness, and elegance also convey this point of view. Faithfulness not only requires the content information and accuracy, but also requires the preservation of the original language style, the author's thoughts, creative style, etc., which is the whole faithfulness of the original one. And the above is my brief introduction from the theoretical level. Now let me invite my partner Cainan to introduce translation examples from the practical level.
Okay, thank you for Rachel's analysis. And in the next part 2, I would like to share some translation samples from particle level. In example 1, these dialogues came from chapter 1, Cross the Lake. In this chapter, the listeners are curious about the Ingrams and want to have a meet with them. They try to persuade Martha to invite them in the next time when the invisible family with Martha. In this situation, a villager, namely Jacob, misused an idiom. He says, "Wash your sword from wet from the ghost." Actually, he confuses with two idioms, which are sort the sheep from the ghost and sort out the wheat from the chaff, mean to identify something or to check something, but Jacob is in low educational level, so he could not use this idiom properly. This challenge is in lexical level. So how to cope with this problem? I used 3 translation methods to take readers realize there is a misused idiom. In target language, it also has idiom with similar meaning with sort the sheep from the ghost and sort out the wheat from the chaff, which are 是驴子是马拉出来溜溜 and 是金非金艳烈而小资。Combined with these 2 Chinese idioms, I translate the misused idiom as 是金子是马拉出来溜溜. So I think in this way, the Chinese reader will realize there is a mistake. Okay, and in the next example, the ST2, mostly she has believed the way all we do. Eventually, tightly expecting the time and season, she plans out and beans and freckled beans on her late father's holding, keeping bean and chickens, drive her cow to the grazings. These sentences came from chapter 2, Freckled Beans. In this chapter, the author narrates Martha's tragedy background and talks about how she lives in the village. The original clause means she lives according to time and season, does something appropriately. This challenge is in lexical level. Just considering this description in writing in a rather literary way, I tend to use amplification method to translate this clause, add more practical details, and help readers engage in the story. So, according to Eugene Nider translation theory, dynamic or fractional equivalence, the principle of the equivalent effect. In the first part, the readers of translated text should be able to comprehend it to the point that they can conceive of how the original readers of the text must have understood and appreciated. And second, the readers of the translated text should be able to understand and appreciate it in essentially the same meaning as the original readers did. This means equivalence response. And the next, finally, aims at complete the naturalist of the target text expression. That is like the closest nature equivalent to the source text message. So when I translated this sentence, I use some 4 Chinese character structure, which we name is 四字格 to translate this sentence. And I think in this way it can show the target readers the source text actually is written in a rather literature way. So in TT2 I translated in 在大多数情况下，它都和我们所有人一样，平凡有序地生活着。日出而作，日落而息，春耕夏耘，秋收冬藏。他会在已故父亲的封地里精耕细作，种燕麦、豆子和雀斑豌豆，养蜂养鸡，赶牛吃草。 Let's move on to the next example. The source text, they drink wines as red and rose-shaped from the silver crocus. The china is blue and white, thin at the blade, and the table is laid with many dishes. They eat rolled meats with the French sauces, full eggs, and check the solings. Veal fricasserie, veal ragout, sling potagerie, with tear, lard livers, scream with cloves, and so on. This description came from Chapter 5, French Sauce. In this chapter, Martha describes how the invisible eat and what food item they have. The second sentence exists too much food items, and most of them are not so famous in Chinese culture, which will trouble the translator. This challenge is in the cultural level. The former one, the few fricasserie, I can find, just few information and from the internet. So I use literal translation to tackle it, but the later one, I could not search any explanation about the dish. Consequently, I translate by transliteration approach. So in the target text, I translate like 他们吃的烤肉配法是酱料、五谷鱼片、牛面颊肉和里脊肉、炖小牛肉和嫩牛肉拉糊。And in the example 4, the source text, they sit in the table for hours. She tells us, but they talk more than they chew. They don't gobble their food or help it to their mouths with their fingers, hunted down any fragments that fall and cramming them back in. These sentences came from Chapter 5, the French sauce. In this chapter, Martha describes how do the invisible eat and what food items they have. The author used length runs on to describe a sequence of the action. To characterize the invisible's behavior, several verbal groups involved in this sentence. So how to deal with this verbal group and make them become a coherent sentence to the target text is a big challenge for translator actually. So this challenge is in sentences level. I use amplification approach to cope with this sentence, adding the junctions to connect these verbal groups. On top of that, these three clauses are in progressive relation. The later one is more impossible. Adjunctions can express this relation perfectly. So in my translation, it is 他们坐在餐桌好几个钟，他告诉我们，但他们说的比嚼的还多。他们不会狼吞虎咽地吃东西，也不会用手指将食物塞进嘴里，更不会找地上的食物碎屑放进嘴里。So with the help of this adjunction, I can help the sentences go fluently and coherently. So that is all about our presentation. If you are interested in our novel, I can send you the whole translation and the source text. Thank you for listening.